Welcome to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show with your hosts, Phil Proctor and Ted Bonnet. Phil and Ted's guest is movie, television, and Broadway actor, writer, and comedian Paul Dooley. And now, your Sexy Boomer hosts, Phil Proctor and Ted Bonnet.
Welcome to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show. I'm Ted Bonnet.
And my middle name is George.
Hi, George.
And today we have a man of many names and many talents.
One of my many names is my middle name is George.
That's right. Your middle name is George. Your birth name is Paul George Brown?
Brown was my name.
Yeah. How did you come up with the name Dooley?
Well, and I was a boy cartoonist, and in high school and college I drew cartoons for the Humor magazine.
Uh-huh.
But just on my own, when I was fooling around and doodling, I started signing pen names. I used to sign everything PB, Paul Brown.
PB.
The reason I didn't keep Paul Brown was when I was 5 years old, a woman on the streetcar said, "What's your name?" I said, "Paul Brown." She said, "Oh, are you the coach at Ohio State?" And I said to my mother, I said, "No, I'm just Paul Brown, 5 years old." And my mother said, "That's the famous man who works for the football team." I said, "I didn't want him having my name. I didn't want to have his name. Even at 5, I didn't know what I would do, but I wanted my identity."
That's cool.
It became Brown Stadium.
Yep.
Cleveland Browns is still named after him.
That's right.
He had 6 winning seasons in high school, so he was a legend in high schools, and they wanted to bring him into professional ball. And he said, "This one thing, I want the team to be named after me. I want them to be the Cleveland Browns." They said, "Okay." And now there's a Brown Stadium, everything.
Wow.
But then I found a guy on Broadway in South Pacific, had the same name. He was
Paul Dooley?
Paul Brown.
Oh, Paul Brown, right. Okay.
And I said, I can't use
that's
that.
It.
So I'd been doodling. I like the Irish name. It's a comedic thing.
Aye.
So I used to draw a doodle, a face or something that I read. O'Malley, Clancy, they all seem like comedy names to me. And I liked Muldoon. I liked the double O's. And finally I used Dooley. Then in college, they asked the speech department, the local high school called over to the college, said, "Could you send some actors over to be in our annual fair?" So I dressed as a clown, and I called him Dooley, and this stuck with me all these years.
You stepped into show business with big shoes. Right?
I did.
Right. And you were performing for kids when you started.
Yeah, I couldn't get into Equity, SAG, and AFTRA. I couldn't get in the union.
It was a catch-22.
Can't get the card without the job.
Exactly.
So I did Alabama and the 40 Thieves and Simple Simon and whatever it was.
I was Lenny the Lobster, and I also did plays about venereal disease. Really, in New York.
I think Lenny had the clap.
The Lobster had crabs.
You know, I was telling you about working at the Village Vanguard, and I saw Lenny Bruce very early in his career.
Yes. Uh-huh.
He said they asked me to do a benefit on television. I said, okay, but I don't know if I'm qualified. It was the Clapathon.
Clapathon.
The guys I observed at the Village Vanguard, Lenny Bruce, just his career was taking off. Also, I saw the first day that Mike and Lane ever came to New York. They came
Nichols
to the
and May.
Vanguard and did one night.
Yeah.
And their manager, the famous Jack Rollins, the greatest manager in the business, took them immediately. Within a month, they were known to all the hoi polloi. The whole society was falling in love with them. They went on NBC Radio.
Yeah. Right. So you were clowning around, and how would you say you got into this extraordinary career that you've had of doing so many different characters? Part of it because you were working with like Second City people and developed the art of improv, I imagine.
Yeah. Andrew Duncan and I got so good at intuiting each other, knowing where the guy's going. It was almost like a mystical thing.
Andrew Duncan
was
one of the
original
Second
City.
Thank you. There's an echo in here. Second City performers. But then later you did commercials with him.
They teamed us up together for some reason.
Was this Chicago or this New York?
Well, when they came to Broadway to do a show, they needed an understudy to do it in the Village, and I became their understudy. That's how I got into improv, without knowing how to do it.
You became the understudy, right?
I said, you don't need to get 4 understudies. If one guy's going for 2 weeks and comes back, I'll do the other guy.
Yeah.
So I'm doing Andrew's material and Larkin's.
But you have a gift that you remember comedy, remember
everything.
Everything. You remember acts.
I'm cursed. Some wrinkle in my brain, you know how it is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not exactly an idiot savant who like Rain
Oh, you're
Man.
just an idiot.
It's just an idiot without the savant. If I've seen 800 comedians and they each had 50 jokes, I'd remember 2 or 3 of the ones I like best. And so if you say Fat Jack Leonard or anybody it is,
Or Burl.
I remember, I never liked Burl because he stole from everybody.
Yeah, he did. And
He invented television. I mean, he made
Uncle Milty.
He did everything that had been done before. He stole from vaudeville.
Yep, he stole from both.
He made fun of stealing.
Yes,
The
he
other
did.
comics named
thief
him
of
the thief of bad gags. He said, I went to see Jessel the other night. He was so funny, I dropped my pencil. So he knew that people thought he was
Yeah, right.
And he did every standard vaudeville scene and burlesque scene. And not only that, but he stuck his nose in everybody else's act. If there was an acrobat act, he wouldn't let them finish. He wouldn't let them do just what their act. He'd come out and get in it and, try to jump up in the air or do something with them. Dancers are dancing. He'd come out and dance with them.
Sure.
Could not stop showing off.
No, it's true.
And even as a young age, I said, I don't like that kind of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Buster Keaton as a minimalist as well.
Mhm. Oh, the
In
greatest.
fact, Buster's a leitmotif in my life because
Right.
I saw him first in film when I was 15, and 30 years later I met him and did a commercial with him.
Oh,
What was he like personally?
Very quiet.
reserved, I imagine.
Silent type.
It was a silent thing. It was for Econoline vans and a bunch of Keystone Cops. I was one of them. Chased him through a bunch of vans, in one door and out the
Oh,
other.
that's funny.
And it was all silent, of course. And there were 4 Keystone Cops. One of them was Barney Martin, who became Seinfeld's dad. Wonderful actor. It's a great story about him. He was a cop in New York, and his beat was to be outside the Ed Sullivan Theater and to keep the crowd people in control so that when the stars came in and out, they didn't bug them. He was surrounded so much he knew the people inside. And one day they said to him, "Are you an actor at all?" He said, "No, but I think I can be a funny guy." He's a cop. They said, "We're looking for an understudy for Gleason."
Holy
Gleason
mackerel.
doesn't want to rehearse. This isn't the first year of Gleason's show.
His TV show. Yeah.
And he became his understudy.
Wow.
And he would rehearse with the wife.
Audrey Meadows.
Audrey Meadows.
He did it for a long time, and he got into show business.
That's how he got into show business.
Yeah.
So he was a stand-in, really, for Gleason, because Gleason didn't want to do the rehearsals for the camera blocking and all that kind of stuff.
Well, Gleason is supposed to be able to read a script and know it.
And know it.
I know it well enough to get through it, but you can see when he's just stretching. For example, she'd said, "Do you think you're going to that convention in New York?" "Am I going to that convention? You're asking me if I'm going to New York." "She wants to know if I'm going to New York, the convention in New York." "What do you think, Norton?" "I guess she knows you're going to the convention in New York." "I'm going to him." He just found jokes and laughs. And
Yeah.
underneath his great comedy, is a secret to it, is he was a great actor.
Yes, he was.
And anybody who's ever seen the Hustler, where he played Minnesota
Oh,
Fats,
yes. Wonderful.
comes in, takes control of the room without speaking, takes off his gloves and his coat, and he's a king.
Yep.
And he does it all with mime. He's a great actor.
Now, did you study acting in school?
I did, but it was a little limited. I was in the state of West Virginia. Mm-hmm. The only other person that ever went there that anyone knows is Don Knotts.
Oh, wow.
And I was
that's good company.
I was a freshman. He was a senior. So I knew Don. He had done the first 3 years of college, then got drafted, but luckily put into special services because as a 15-year-old, he had an act with a ventriloquist doll.
Oh.
And he was already a little comedian. And in college, he did comedy. And so he got to entertain the troops for
Wonderful.
2 years. And that's a great gig. He never carried a gun, never dug a foxhole.
Yep.
But he also improved his chops. By the time he came back to college, where I met him, he was a professional, skilled, perfect professional comedian. Had an act of all kinds, Had so much fun with him. Don had a very high voice, and he was married at that time to one of his wives. Her name was Kay. When I called there, if he answered the phone, he said, "Hello." I said, "Is Don there?" "This is Don." But I said it every time I called. He taught me my first magic trick, which is the French drop. A lot of actors, and especially comedians, tried magic when
Yep,
they were
I did
adolescents.
too.
Yeah. I developed a clown act after I was in children's theater for $5 a performance. Well, I figured out that the lady who ran this little company, oddly called the Rockefeller Players, she was one of the cheap relatives. So anyway, I found that she charged $100 to the school for an hour and a half of a show. I decided I could make a show. and I would sell it to them for $45 for 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't stretch a clown act. I used juggling and magic, but I couldn't stretch it out that long.
Do you juggle also?
Yeah. I taught myself to juggle. I lived on a gravel road, but as the gravel road is traveled a lot of the gravel is thrown to one side.
Yes.
And are all over here. And sometimes they're not just small pieces of gravel, they're sort of rock size. I found some that had the same weight, and after dropping them 1,000 times, usually you have to keep chasing them because you throw it in front of you too far.
That's right.
I learned 3-ball juggling, but something interesting happened when I did the movie Popeye.
And you played Wimpy.
Yes, I did.
In that.
A lot of the people in the cast had been clowns. There were clowns from Italy playing small parts.
Uh-huh.
There were a lot of circus performers.
Yeah, it was like a Fellini movie in many ways.
Fellini movie.
A fantasy,
And Bob auditioned clowns.
This is Bob Altman.
Yeah, Bob Altman, the director.
The connection with Bob Altman was something that happened because of a play you were doing.
A Jules Pfeiffer evening.
A Jules Pfeiffer evening in New York.
Nothing but cartoons. But Bob Altman saw me there and hired me for 5 movies in a row. Then also Jules wrote the screenplay for the movie Popeye.
When you did the Popeye movie, it was you guys were on location in Malta.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what a bizarre experience that must have been for you.
Well, it was like unreal in that it's not something you could do in that place to go to town in the evenings.
Yeah.
First of all, they're speaking Maltese, which is mixed up with Sicilian, which it was in the middle of the Mediterranean between Sicily and North Africa, Libya. Nothing to do. But we had such a talented group of people. There were 50 actors altogether, small parts, medium, and large.
And, of course, Robin Williams.
Who
was 50 parts in himself.
Let's put on a show for ourselves.
Yeah.
So we'd sit in the audience, and when your turn came, you just go on stage. And Robin said, I won't be in it. I'll just be the MC. But, of course, he MC'd every act, and he was in it more than anybody. But he'd come out and do Ed Sullivan, introduce characters and do Ed Sullivan for a while and go back. After the next act, he'd come back and he would do another dialect, another imitation. He would do what he thought was Maltese dialect because he could do anything.
Oh, he was amazing.
And it lasted 4 hours. It was great.
This was just something you did to entertain yourselves?
Yeah, just for ourselves. I did stuff for my old act. I recreated Smith and Dale's Dr. Cronkite with Libertini.
Oh.
Something I knew very well. And Shelley Duvall could sing a song and play a guitar. Bill Irwin was there.
That's right.
He did clown routines.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a very special place to be. We lived in a small village called Malia on the outskirts. We never felt we were in Malta or Malia because we were 12 hours a day shooting and then watching dailies.
On that crazy
And we thought we lived and breathed in Sweet Haven.
Sweet Haven, that's right.
Yeah.
How long were you there?
6 months.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
That's a long time.
That's a long shoot.
The interesting thing is that we would get all dressed up in our costumes and go to a little island off of Malta called Gogo.
The island of Gogo?
Gogo, a little island off of Malta. A caretaker had a cabin there. There's nothing else there. But that's where we would the boats were anchored and we'd get all dressed up with the big feet and the mustache and the fat suit and eyebrows, and they shaved my eyebrows and gave me a mustache. And then the next 2 days it would rain and we couldn't work. But you always went out there to see how the weather would be. We wasted a lot of time for bad weather, but Tread is playing that to Paramount.
Yeah, of course.
They say he's just back there smoking pot with all of his actors, Well, that part was true.
Right. It was. Good. One of the things I heard about Altman was that he mic'd each of you actors individually.
That's right.
So that he could actually mix while...
He had a great control.
While you were shooting, right?
Everybody would wear a mic, and he could record them separately on a track. And then later he could
mix them.
Lower one and raise the other, or take them both out.
Brilliant.
Or keep one person and not the other. He had great control of the editing process with sound. He always had huge casts. There were 24 people in Nashville and 50 people in Wedding.
Was there a lot of improvisation?
Well, he's sort of known for improvisation, but being an improviser, I know that it really wasn't that much. It just people knew that they were free to change things. I was doing a scene in the Wedding in the dance room, and there was an orchestra playing. The girl was singing. And during it, we're all mic'd. Yeah. And I'm dancing with Dina Merrill, who was one of the characters, a rich lady. And I said, you want to run the lines? Because we were nowhere near a mic. And even though I had a mic, I just didn't think this was our coverage. Yeah. I just thought we're in the background. I saw cameras over there. Yeah. And she said, sure. So we're running the lines, just throwing them away as you will.
Right.
If you're running lines, you're not acting. You're just saying the words.
Getting it going.
Then later he said, okay, that's a wrap. Everybody moved to the cake room.
The cake room.
And I said to the AD, I said, you didn't get our conversation yet. He said, oh, no, we picked that up.
Oh, Pete.
I said, there were no cameras near us. He said, no, this is a long lens. We had 3 cameras. At one point, we picked you up in a 2-shot. And we did your lines. We got it. So Dina and I said to each other, we weren't even acting.
No.
So when we watched the dailies the next day, it was pretty good acting because we weren't acting.
Oh,
we were just saying the thing,
That's true.
Yeah.
When you became part of Altman's ensemble, what differentiated him from all the other directors you worked with? He was always regarded to be unique.
Well, the script was a very loose thing. He sort of knew what scenes he wanted and what information was in it. And I remember Wedding, the first one I did with him, the first day we got there, he gave everybody a notebook. And the notebook had listed all the characters and their backstories. And one person would have one page, and the last page was a violin player who said she plays the violin. But they were little bios, and we all had a notebook, but there was no script yet.
Wow.
He just knew what he wanted to do. Other movies, there were scripts. In fact, I helped write a script with him once.
When did you get into your writing? Because I know your lovely wife, Winnie Holzman, is a writer, and you met her in improvisation first? And
Yes, there was a little company of improv people. They were all friends of mine from the commercial world.
Where were you doing this, out here in L.A.?
No, it was in the Village.
In the Village in New York.
Years ago, this 25-year-old was there, who was Winnie, and she's very funny and charming, and later became this huge writer, great writer.
Yep.
So then, over 6 months, we fell in love and got married.
Oh, that's wonderful. Where did Winnie get the idea for Wicked?
It's based on a book.
It was based on a book, but how did she get the opportunity to do that?
Well, she had done a musical in New York called Birds of Paradise. Her training was the NYU. She was in a charter class of a thing called the Musical Theater Workshop. What an opportunity. She got a scholarship.
Wow.
And her teachers were Leonard Bernstein, Arthur Lawrence, Stephen Sondheim.
Oh, wow. Please.
Every big name on Broadway came and taught. Because there were so many of them, they wouldn't have to teach every week or every day.
Sure.
They come in once every 2 weeks. But those are her teachers. Can you imagine having those people teach you about what you want to know?
It seems like you spent so much of your career in New York. Were you bi-coastal? Were you going back and forth all the time, or did you sort of do New York?
Getting a little personal if you ask me. Bi-coastal.
I came out here to do a series over at Universal. It was the only series I ever had to lead in. I always play these guys who don't smile because my father never smiled. And I love Buster Keaton.
That's right.
It's all connected.
Your father never smiled?
Never laughed, never smiled.
Never laughed?
Never hardly talked to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was he a miner? Or
No, he worked in a factory. But he's a remarkable man that I just learned to admire more after I was growing up.
Yeah.
My father got married, and he wanted to have a home, but he didn't have enough money. So he bought 2 lots out of town, in almost a rural area.
Yeah.
2 lots for $25 each in 1900-something.
Wow.
And by himself, he built a house and did everything himself. Took him 2 years to do all this. He worked from 7 to 3.
7 to 3.
And nearby factory, came over there and worked until dark for 2 years.
Astonishing.
When they put an electric poles in near it,
Yeah.
he stayed there and slept on the floor. He just worked like a dog. He was a genius, but no one knew that. I thought everyone's father built his own house.
Sure.
In therapy, years and years later, I said, I don't know how my father knew all that. He said, well, your father had to be highly, highly, highly intelligent to do all that. He had bad eyes. He wore these thick glasses.
Thick glasses, right.
How does a guy like that measure a quarter of an inch or half an inch or an inch with bad eyes?
Challenged eyes.
But he did it. But all he cared about was work. He'd come home from work, put down his lunch pail, go to his workshop, called in for dinner,
Wow.
He hardly ever talked to anybody. He was just a curmudgeon in that way. Not a mean guy. I think he was afraid of people. His father left him and left the family. He was a young kid. I think he was afraid of being close, a fear of intimacy, even with his family. I never got a hug from him.
Now, what did your mother make up for this? Was she a loving?
She was loving, but she came from a family where her father was more like that.
Mm-hmm.
Men were just work guys.
Yes.
They didn't spend a lot of time talking to their kids, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not manly after you're 2 or 3 years old to hug a boy. You know, those kind of cultures.
Yep, absolutely.
The only way you can bond is to take them fishing or hunting.
Yeah.
Well, I never even got...
Was there no laughter in the house?
No.
So where did it come from for you?
I don't know. In fact, I'm not a big laugher. I just enjoy comedy, you know. A lot of times, you know this, comedians are the most sincere, straightest people in the world.
I know.
And if there's a group of them and one of them says something funny, they don't laugh. They say, that's
funny.
But they don't laugh because they're too close to it.
It's interesting that you said all that because watching you perform, you're very deadpan. You're always very serious.
I am.
Which makes it really funny because you
right.
feel a little dangerous watching you.
It's in my DNA from my father.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
And I had uncles and I had neighbors, and they were all kind of stoic types. And a lot of men who are macho who think about just work and being masculine.
Yeah, laughing is even...
Yeah, laughing is a little bit...
A little feminist.
Silly.
So is this reverse conditioning for you?
A lot of parts I've gotten are my father.
That's right.
And if they're not my father, I make them my father.
Yeah, how many fathers have you played?
About 25.
25.
This book I wrote is called Movie Dad.
When?
It's coming out in October. The hook of the book, while I was becoming the most well-known dad in movies, asked for all the time, my crazy ex-wife kidnapped my children.
Oh.
And took them away, and they were gone for 10 years.
3 children that you had with her. They've gone for 10 years, did you say?
10 years before they came back.
Wow.
One of them was 18 years old, came back.
Had you not seen them?
I didn't see him for 10 years.
Imagine that.
No.
And look at the irony of this. Here's everybody's dad who can't talk to his kid. And a reviewer of Seen Candle said, Dooley turns in another great performance as the father. He's the perfect father. I don't know if there are any little Dooleys out there, but if there are, they have a great dad.
Oh.
And they're all gone. They were in Europe for a while, then they were in this country, but they were just unreachable. You know, I was bad-mouthed to the point that they thought I was a bad guy.
Of course. Did they know you were an actor? Did they see you?
Well, eventually, I don't know how that came about. When my son was maybe 14, he went to see Breaking Away.
Breaking Away.
I started hugging Dennis Christopher as my son.
Yeah.
And he's tears in his eyes for the whole movie. And he sees me hugging my son, and he can't hug me. He leaves the theater.
Oh. And after the 10 years?
They came back.
And good?
One kid who was only 3 or 4 when they left didn't want to return to me, and he's estranged. He heard his mother's propaganda too much. And he didn't remember me as much.
Yeah.
But the other 2 are in my life now for 30 years.
Wonderful.
They came to my wedding 37 years ago.
Wow, that's wonderful. But let's get back to some of your inspirations. You mentioned Buster Keaton and working with Buster Keaton.
Mm-hmm. Keaton was my favorite. I'm wondering why he was your favorite too. What just set him apart?
I saw Chaplin and Keaton and all those people. I never cared for Harold Lloyd. I knew that he was successful and he made a lot of money and was as popular as those guys practically. Maybe a little under Chaplin, but he was even more financially successful than Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
But I could admire Chaplin from afar, but I could not imagine sitting down and having a beer with him.
Yeah.
He didn't seem like an average guy. He might have played a tramp, but he was the smartest tramp you've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain superiority in his tramp. Like he was never the underdog, really. He might have dressed like a bum, but he was smarter than the audience, smarter than the other actors.
Mm-hmm.
This Keaton seemed to be every man.
Yes.
He seemed like this is a guy you could sit down with and have a
also
beer.
like a comic victim in a way, too.
Yes, life happened to him.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, once in a while, especially in his early days, if somebody challenged the Chaplin's tramp, he would quickly take his coat off and throw it on the ground and do this.
Right.
And start sparring.
Start sparring.
You know.
That's right.
On a dime.
Yeah, that's true.
If anybody ever threatened Keaton in any way, he ran. He's a pacifist.
Right.
He never got into fights. He would never attack anybody. Even guys who were chasing him.
He'd take the fall.
He'd take the fall, literally. I only learned later that he was a better filmmaker than Chaplin. He created things in movies that are still going on.
Yeah.
In a movie, Sherlock Jr., he walked down the aisle of the movie theater. He was a projectionist, walked into the movie.
Yeah.
And later Woody Allen stole it.
Purple Rose of Cairo.
Cairo, and you can call it a homage all you want, but it stole it.
It stole it.
But it was Keaton. And he did things where you opened a car door and Buster got out, then another Buster got out, and another. He was doing things Chaplin never did with film and cinema.
I have a secondhand Keaton story that I want to tell you, and if you've heard it before, don't stop me. This is through Jack Riley, my dear late friend, who I did
Funny guy.
Oh, Jack was wonderful. He was doing a Red Skelton show with Buster Keaton as a guest star. And the gag was a pizza parlor with one of those big ovens, and they had the pizza paddle that put the pizza into the oven and then pull it out. And the gag was Jack was the boss and Keaton was the apprentice, and he had to handle the paddle. And he went too far with the paddle, went into the oven, and then came out all smoking and blah, blah, blah. In the rehearsal for this, they hadn't finished the set completely, but they had the frame and most of the oven built. In the rehearsal, he did the gag, and then they said, okay, on to the next setup. And Jack noticed as they were walking back to the dressing room that his knees were bleeding through his pants. He had skinned his knees because they hadn't finished the wood on the bottom of this oven. He skinned both of his knees in the gag. And Jack said, oh my God, we got to get a nurse. And he grabbed his hand. Buster Keaton grabbed Jack's hand and squeezed it so hard, Jack said, that he had a bruise on his arm. And Keaton said, no, don't tell anybody. It was my fault.
And he's been bruised his whole life.
Oh, he broke a collarbone in that gag with the water tower and the...
Broke his neck and didn't know it.
Maybe that's why he always had that dour expression on his face. He was just in so much pain.
No, he grew up being in pain.
And they tossed him around. That's why they called him Buster, right?
Yeah, because he's not in the act, but even when he was younger, he had a fall. And the legend is that Houdini, who knew the father, said... that's quite a buster, meaning a fall.
Oh.
And the father said, yeah, that's a good name for him. But he wasn't yet in the act.
Oh, he wasn't in the act yet. Oh.
But some people say that's apocryphal and maybe the father made it up. Yeah, but
I like that.
The story is that it's Houdini because before he was in vaudeville, there was a show called a medicine show. You know how?
Oh, sure.
It was called the Houdini-Keaton medicine show. It was Joe Keaton, Buster's father, and Houdini.
No kidding.
The handcuff king.
Yeah.
They gathered a crowd. They sold snake oil, which cures anything and moves on to the next city. And they only had performers because it was to gather a crowd. And Buster's mother was on the stage. Joe, his father, was a roustabout, which means like a grip. And he would help pack a truck or something, not a truck, but a stagecoach with horses. He was helper.
Yeah.
And his only talent was he could kick high, had very long legs proportionately to his torso. And he could kick a man's hat off of his head. And you just go on stage and a guy with a hat, and he kick it off, and that's enough to draw a crowd.
Oh, yeah?
A medicine show. And then he married this girl. They became Buster's parents.
On YouTube, you can search Buster Keaton Candid Camera.
Yes,
he did a Candid Camera?
Yeah, mastery. The bit was some unwitting customer at a luncheonette in New York sits next to Keaton, and Keaton starts to clumsily just destroy himself with coffee.
I know that bit, and one of the things that happens, he's eating soup very close and leaning in very closely, and he engineered it so his wig fell in the soup.
Yes.
He engineered it.
Yep.
You got to be smart to know how to do that without looking obvious.
Oh, I know.
I did a couple of those.
You did? What did you do in Candid Camera?
One of them was they had rigged a machine that gives you drinks, but they rigged it so that I was inside it. It took out parts of it. A guy goes in and he puts in a coin, and a cup comes down, but no drink. And he rattles the thing. I said, don't pound on the machine. I'm inside here. What? I said, yeah, I'm a repairman. I'm repairing it. What happened? What's your problems? Well, I got a cup, but I didn't get any drink. Oh, I said, let me fix that. And, well, what did you order? He said, a ginger ale, and I poured in a Coke. I mean, I could control it. So it was putting him on, having a conversation with a guy inside the thing. Another one I did was I had my head in a bird cage, and there was a canary in there. I'm in a parking lot, and I said, could you give me a hand? What? I was trying to feed my bird, from my lips, and I put my head in. I got stuck. I can't get out. Well, most people walked away from it because it looked too fucking weird. Speaking of my other influencers, I thought Sid Caesar was head and shoulders above almost everybody doing comedy.
I agree.
Because I not only like comedy, but I like sketch playing more than stand-up.
I don't know how they did that 90-minute Your Show of Shows every week.
Well, it was his genius, but...
And what a writing staff.
And Woody did the typing.
Yeah, I know.
Well, they brought Woody in because they knew he was writing and funny. There was a secretary, but she couldn't really keep track of it because there was a crazy shouting match.
Oh, sure.
And Caesar didn't like a joke. He didn't say no. He would pantomime machine gun to shoot it down. That's how he shot down an idea. But he was loud and aggressive. And
I worked with him. My partner, Peter Bergman, and I worked with Sid because he wanted to get back on television 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I guess. And so we were at his house. We worked with him at his house.
In Long Island?
No, in the Hollywood Hills.
Out here.
During our writing sessions, he would have a big souvenir mug filled with water. We asked him about it. He said, well, I used to have a really big appetite. We'd do the show, then we'd go out and have something to eat. And I'm sitting there one day getting ready to order, and a waiter goes by with a tray with steaks on it. And I stopped him. I said, I want that. Put the plate here. And he said, well, Mr. Caesar, these people ordered their dinner. I don't care. I'll pay for their dinners. Put it here. And Reiner, who was with him, said, Sid, you're really out of control. He said, okay. So he went to a psychiatrist. And he worked with a psychiatrist for a while. And one day the psychiatrist said to him, Sid, your problem is you have an enormous appetite. And he said, you don't have to drink alcohol or beer. You don't have to eat, everything that you see. All you need is to satisfy that appetite. You could be drinking water. And so Caesar says, oh, thank you. And he gets up off the couch. He said, wait a minute, Sid, we still have another 15 minutes to go. He said, no, I'm cured. I got it. And he changed his whole life.
Then he was skinny.
Boy, was he funny.
Caesar was one of the first people I admired because I could feel he was a good actor under all the comedy.
And that company that he had, the way he nurtured his ensemble.
They were doing a Japanese movie once. Reiner was playing the Japanese warlord, the heavy, and his name was Ganzer Mishpocha. The whole family. And they had the Princess Schmata was in it.
Princess Schmata.
Oh, they were brilliant. But that writing team is what did all that,
Oh, yeah.
I grew up in New York, and I kind of romanticize what New York was like, the show business world, in the 50s and 60s when television was coming up, and Sid Caesar, Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
Jackie Gleason had an impression on you as well.
He did, very much. And before he did The Honeymooners, which is mostly nobody knows except for that, but he had a variety show. Reginald Van Gleason, Poor Soul.
The Poor Soul.
Can you perhaps draw a snapshot of what it was like to be in New York?
Well, here's the thing that tells you what it was like in those days. Yeah. Early television.
We're talking 1950s?
52 when I got there.
Okay.
They still hadn't worked out a system to have audiences come in to watch a television show live. There was no system in place. So if you walked up 6th Avenue, there would be ushers out there from NBC saying, want tickets to a show? It's a soap opera. Here's tickets free. And Sid Caesar, and I would go see it and shoot it in the afternoon. And I got to see a lot of the Sid Caesar shows live.
Wow.
You're still working.
Well, not in the pandemic.
But that's the only thing stopping you.
Yeah. Before the pandemic, I would do about guest spots on about 8 shows a year. And I was on a show called Kids Are All Right, and I did 4 of those, and I'll be in another show, and then maybe that's 1, maybe it's 2, maybe I do 6. It's just guest stars. That was the way I was working. Those things are worth $5,000, so you'll make $50,000 a year just as an older actor.
You've always been a character actor because you're an actor.
Yeah.
And you play characters.
Well, I made my first movie when I was 49 with Altman.
It's your first movie.
First movie.
Seems late in your career, right?
I was an improviser and a commercial actor.
Yep.
I had also done The Odd Couple on Broadway. That was my one Broadway show.
You were understudying in that, and then you took over. Is that right?
Well, I got an audition for The Odd Couple. I never had an audition for a Broadway show before because I was stuck in the commercial business. Didn't have an agent for it legit.
Sure.
So I want to be familiar with it. You know how it is with an audition. Sure. You don't have to know every word. But hell, I became so familiar with it, I knew it cold. Then I learned all the cues cold. I could do all the cues too. I didn't need the script, but of course, as an actor, you
go on and you hold it, right?
Because if you're nervous and you miss one line, you screw it up.
It's right there, yeah.
I knew it cold. I knew I didn't have to have a script, but I needed to hold it so it It looks right. It's professional. You don't look like you're bragging. So I go on stage, and it's for the Art Carney role. Mike Nichols is there with his entourage and the producers, and there are a couple of chuckles because I have good timing and all that. But then at a certain point, Oscar does a line to Felix, which is angering him, picking on him, right? So I took the opportunity to throw my script in the air. Well, anything valuable torn it in half or thrown away is funny, so I got to laugh by throwing my papers in the air. Having the papers in the air allowed me to get on my knees and pick them up like Felix, cleaning up the floor.
Sure.
And since I still know my lines, I could do my lines and pick up and become the fussy guy. There's a couple of big laughs when I threw it away and started picking it up. And Mike came down to the footlights. And Mike didn't know me, but he had seen me down in the village. He dropped in once in a while to that Second City Company. He dropped in occasionally. But Mike had seen me do a routine I replaced Alan Arkin in a sketch we called Selling Fallout Shelters Door to Door. It was an old Second City sketch. Mike said, I saw you do that thing in the Fallout Shelter thing. It was very funny. I said, could you do a little of that for us? I said, it's hard, Mike, because the other actor had lines, not a monologue. He said, that's all right. Then I left. And I never had this happen anywhere in the world. I'm going up the alley next to the theater, and the stage manager runs after me and says, you got it.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
So my throwing my papers in the air.
That's what did it.
And even saying, I don't think I can do the thing you're asking me for. But he already must have liked what I did. Anyway, I got the job. Then they told me that indeed I would be the understudy for Carney. So when we were doing the rehearsals, once in a while, Nichols would say, I'm finished with the poker players. We're going to work with Walter and Art now. Yeah. You guys can take like a 3-hour lunch and then come back. So the poker players will leave, but I stayed because I'm understudying. And I figure I learned by watching rather than learning from the book. And I learned the blocking. Art Carney and Walter Matthau. Art was an alcoholic. And out of town, we were in 6 weeks in 3 cities, and he never missed a show. A week after we opened, he missed a show, but never called in and said, I'm not coming.
Oh, dear.
So I got into his outfit, and I did the part, but I was word perfect. I got all the laughs.
Boy, that must have been fun.
Oh, you kidding? A laugh a minute. Except that Walter Matthau was not easy to get along with.
Oh, really? Was he a grouchy guy?
Tough guy. I had a run-in with Walter because he was too mischievous. Everybody in the poker player group had been complaining about him backstage after we went off. What did he do wrong tonight? Well, he stepped on my line. He did this. He changed that. And we all just saw him as a heavy pain in the ass. And so they called a meeting, the stage manager, between shows on a matinee day. Said, there's a bad morale going on. I hear people changing lines, people stepping on people's lines. And it was mostly Walter, not us.
Yeah, right.
So what's the problem? Well, Carney didn't speak up. The poker players didn't speak up. They were intimidated by the fact that Matthau just won the Tony. And he was the de facto star. And I must have had a great week in therapy for some reason because I'm not confrontational. I said, the problem is that Walter's fucking up the play every night. And he starts making excuses, saying, well, if you mean I like to change things a little, that's just the way I work. I loosen myself up. It's, I come into the scene, maybe I'll say something that's not in the script. And I said, and maybe you'll step on somebody else's joke. You'll cut the laugh by coming in too soon. But nobody was stepping up at me, and he was giving lame excuses. He would say things like, well, perhaps you all should just, vote and get a better actor. Well, he doesn't mean that. It was just bullshit. Yeah. And that's what he used to do with Mike Nichols. He would not take his notes, and he would bullshit about it. He'd say to him, maybe I'm not a good enough actor, remember your notes. Or, I think I'm going to do the note, but then it just comes out the other way.
Aye, boy.
But he was just a very, very big bullshitter. 5 years after that, I had a little job where I directed sketches on a show called The David Frost Report. One day in that show, Art Carney came on as a guest star, and we went out to lunch together. And he says to me, that day when you called Walter Matthau on the carpet? He said, I wanted to ask you something. Were you ever a boxer? And I said, no, hardly. Why? He says, I thought you were going to pop him one because I was outspoken. I says, no. Well, I feel bad now, and I felt bad then that I shouldn't have spoken up about him because he was suffered more from it than any of us because he would upstage him and Art didn't understand upstaging. He would step upstage and Art would turn upstage to face him, and you have your back to the audience. A normal actor just move up there with you. And every 2 weeks he'd miss 2 performances.
Art, because
Art. And I had done it maybe 22 times.
Yeah.
And one day he missed, and the next day he missed, and the next day he missed, and he never came back.
Oh.
He had checked into a rehab. His wife didn't know where he was. His agent didn't know where he was. It was a mystery.
Wow.
So I got to play the lead and be above the title in the show, playing Felix.
Great.
And then after a couple of weeks, they said to me, "Oh, we wanted to tell you we found the new Felix." And I'm thinking, what? New Felix? I never missed a line. I got all my laughs. I said, why? They said, "Oh, well, the producers, we felt we needed a name. It's the odd couple. We just can't say Walter Matthau, then someone else down here. The people don't know very much." Well, they could just put me above the title if they wanted to. Well, I was there anyway. So the new guys said, "Who is it?" They said, "Eddie Bracken." I said, "Okay, I know who he is."
Yeah, Eddie Bracken.
I said, "Well, he hasn't been very many movies lately." They said, "Yeah, but older people buy tickets. People from out of town buy tickets, and they'll remember him." They said, "You can go back to the table being
Oh, jeez.
what was his name? Speed was his name." Mike Nichols told me, "You're the engine of the poker game. No matter what the other guys are doing, they'd be distracted with conversation. Come on, let's play. You go back to the table and be Speed." And I said, "I think I'll be moving on." I'd been in it a year.
Sure.
Well, if they're going to demote me, fuck them.
But what was it like working with Matthau after you had...
Well, I know one thing. When he walked up stage, I went with him.
Yeah.
He'd take a step up stage, I go up there, I go with him. We'd end up at the back wall. Yeah, right. But he knew I could hold my own.
There was a begrudging respect for you, and then
a little bit, yeah. Even though I had called him out.
Curious about Art Carney, working off of somebody like as strong as Jackie Gleason in that iconic role, and he
held his own with Jackie. He was strong and everything, but Art was a very shy person.
Wasn't Gleason the same sort of dynamic? I mean, Gleason drank.
He respected Art. He respected him.
All the stories I've heard about Jackie Gleason, I never got to meet him.
He loved Art.
Was he has a really big heart.
He knew he had a gold mine there. The guy was great.
Well, there was one story about him in New York that I heard. He's having dinner out, and at the end of the thing, he says to the waiter, he says, "So how much is the biggest tip you've ever gotten?" And he said, "It's $50, Mr. Gleason." He says, "Here's $100." He says, "By the way, who gave you the $50? He said, "You did, Mr. Gleason."
Oh, it was Gleason? Gleason was very generous.
Yes, I know. I think you're finished.
In the business?
It's been a good career, and you've talked about it, so we've got that. So, and you've got a book coming out. Okay, so I think you could just quit.
Pack it in.
You don't have to.
I told my wife about 10 years ago, if I never get another job on a sitcom where I have 10 lines, I don't care. I said, I proved my point.
You are having the most amazing career and a wonderful life. I only hope that I can live as long and as joyously.
How old are you now, by the way?
I'm 81.
93.
You're 93.
You're an amazing 93.
And loving it.
Boy.
You're in great health. You look great. You're having fun. You got your mind. Most of your mind.
Never smoked, and I never drank, and I never did drugs. I don't drink coffee or tea, no stimulants. And I was breastfed till I was 5 years old. And don't think you don't get some cholesterol.
Yeah.
Not cholesterol. Colostrum, which is immunity from the mother's milk. Mm-hmm. So all these things put together might mean why I've
your
lived
longevity.
This long. My longevity.
They need to put you on the cover of AARP immediately.
If I knew how to spell it, they would.
ARP.
I think you're remarkable in terms of how vital you are and still so present. How do you stay relevant? Any secret to that?
A curious mind. My mind is busy and active and thoughtful.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Plus, you have all those jokes memorized. You can amuse yourself constantly, I imagine.
This podcast, Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show, came out of the same kind of instinct when Ted and I have been friends for a long time, and we basically got to a point where we used to have these lunches, regular lunches, and just have a ball. We said, well, why don't we record, make a show,
Yeah.
My mom's got a barn, Well, thank you very much, Mr. Brown, for this wonderful trip through your personal history. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I've enjoyed you both a great deal, and it's wonderful to reminisce about things.
It sure is.
And I know listeners are interested in trivia.
I learned a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You already knew a lot, because I know you're a guy who has his ear to the ground for this stuff. Yeah.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
Well, Ted, this was a fascinating trip through history and histrionics at the same time. and I'm very grateful that Paul and I, who have spoken often over the years, could actually do it on the radio.
Fantastic. All right, until next time.
Will there be a next time?
Let's hope so.
Let's hope. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show, featuring Phil Proctor and Ted Bonnet and their special guest, Paul Dooley. Music by Eddie Betos and the Nervous Brothers. I'm A. Ernest Guy. To hear all the Sexy Boomer shows, visit our website, sexyboomershow.com. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast for free by clicking the subscribe button in your app or webpage and never miss an episode. Please tell your friends about Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show. Produced by RadioPictures.com, the makers of fine podcasts for seasoned hipsters, man.